Tribute to missing and murdered Indigenous women and three sisters of the collective that I co-founded along with Autumn Billy and Autumn Gomez are organized this for you. But first I would like to acknowledge all the vendors behind us under the portal who sell their work. All the Native vendors, thank you. They're here, rain, sleet, snow, selling their work, so they deserve some acknowledgement. I also want to call out all the Indigenous people to come and stand in solidarity with us at this point right now. So could you all move in and surround here? So Three Sisters Collective was formed in the fall of 2016 to recenter an Indigenous Pueblo presence in Santa Fe and to rematriate the city of Santa Fe. So if you would give us space for Indigenous folks to come and stand in solidarity with us at this time. So once again, we want to acknowledge that we are on Tewa land, and I would like to invite up Amber Morningstar Byers. She is Choctaw and Chickasaw, and she has some words to share with us. We also have leaflets, pamphlets that we're going to start handing out too. If anybody wants to help us hand out these pamphlets, please take that on. So all Indigenous women, folks, please come and stand with us at this time. So Amber, let's start with you.
Alito, Amakana, Chimachukma, Sa'achofuyu, Amber Ana Hindley Fitchik, Byers, Asiya Chata. Greetings, relatives. It is wonderful to see all your beautiful faces on this very beautiful day. My name is Amber Morningstar Byers, and I am from the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations. I was born at the Indian Hospital here in Santa Fe, and I recently graduated from the Institute of American Indian Arts. I will go on to law school at the University of Arizona in August of this year. Folks, I really wish I was here to give you a lighthearted speech, but unfortunately I am not. I am here today to talk to you about missing and murdered Indigenous women, an epidemic that has been plaguing Indian country for far too long without acknowledgement. Our women, trans women, and Two-Spirit community members are murdered and sexually assaulted at alarmingly high rates all across this nation and in Canada. 1 out of every 2 Native women will experience at least one sexual assault in her lifetime. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention has named murder as the 3rd leading cause of death among American Indian and Alaskan Native women. This means that the women you see on stage here today, including myself, are 10 times more likely than the national average to be murdered. Whenever I find myself surrounded by a group of my Native sisters like I am right now, I wonder to myself, which one of us is next? Beginning in 2016, the Urban Indian Health Institute used the Freedom of Information Act to probe law enforcement agencies, public records, and media sources of almost 71 cities across the nation to bring you the information that I am relaying to you here today. They have created an unprecedented report that details the statistical information behind the missing and murdered women epidemic. In this report, the Urban Indian Health Institute reported that the cities with the highest rates of missing and murdered Indigenous women are Seattle, Albuquerque, Anchorage, and Tucson. As for the states with the highest numbers of missing and murdered Indigenous women, can you guess who came in first? We did. New Mexico, followed by Washington, Arizona, Alaska, Montana, and California. For those of you who do not understand how this can be happening to our women, let me explain the jurisdictional loophole to you. If a non-Native man comes onto a reservation, takes a woman, a Native woman, off the reservation, and sexually assaults or murders her, he cannot be prosecuted by tribal authorities because they do not possess jurisdiction off the reservation. The responsibility of investigation and prosecution should fall onto the state, right? Wrong. It doesn't, because it involves a member of a sovereign nation, a tribal woman. Someone comes from a foreign country, essentially. So these cases are then passed on to the feds, and 9 times out of 10, they simply do not investigate them. I should also mention that because of the extractive industry, oil and gas pipelines require man camps to be built very close, conveniently, to reservation borders, where hundreds of workers are housed, some of whom take advantage of this governmental loophole within law enforcement.
No man camps.
No man camps!
No man camps.
But folks, unfortunately, this loophole isn't the only cause of missing and murdered Indigenous women, because 71% of American Indian and Alaska Natives actually live off the reservation and in urban settings. So let me tell you about the other leading cause of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Institutional racism. Tell me why, in 2016, 5,712 cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women were reported, but only 116 of those were logged into the Department of Justice's missing person database. Tell me why, when the Urban Indian Health Institute reached out to those 71 law enforcement agencies across the nation, 32 of them just didn't respond. Tell me why 95% of missing and murdered Indigenous women cases in the United States since the year 2000 have gone unreported in the mainstream media. I will tell you why this is happening. Because the United States government was the first perpetrator to brutalize Native women.
Right.
They were the first to rape our women, steal our children, and slaughter our men and elders. Folks, in this country, violence against Native women has always been allowed. And unless we do something to stop it, it will always be allowed. I would now like to read the names of some of our missing sisters and some who have been murdered, followed by a moment of silence for them. While I read their names, I ask that you all keep their spirits and their loved ones in your prayers. Olivia Lone Bear, North Dakota. Hannah Harris, Montana. Amaya Lyric Fallsdown, Montana. Ashley Loring Heavy Runner, Montana. Vanessa Lee, Arizona. L'Oreal Sinigini, Arizona. Leona LeClaire Kinsey, Oregon. Fred Martinez, Arizona. Lakota Ray Renville, Missouri. Rita Papaki, Iowa. Selena Tierra Bell Delaney, Oklahoma. Ariel Bigay, Arizona. Misty Ray Bedoni, Arizona. Alicia Thompson, California. Ashley Johnson Barr, Alaska. Shelley Poor Bear Black Elk, South Dakota. Henny Scott, Montana. Audra Willis, Tohajali, New Mexico. Antoinette Christine Calladito, Gallup, New Mexico. Tanya Teresa Bigay, Tohatchi, New Mexico. Shannon Miles, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Melanie Marie James, Farmington, New Mexico. Zani Bigay, Ojo Encino, New Mexico. Sachana Trujillo, Ojo Encino, New Mexico. Ashlyn Mike, Farmington, New Mexico. Danette Webb, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Julian Vicente, Shiprock, New Mexico. Betty Claw, Farmington, New Mexico. Tiffany Reed, Shiprock, New Mexico. Danielle Ray Vigil, Gallup, New Mexico. Ashley Elizabeth Rosales, Belen, New Mexico. Chantel Leanne Bitsili, Gallup, New Mexico. Samantha Bigay, Gallup, New Mexico. Nicole Westbrook, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Twyla Montoya, Bernalillo, New Mexico. Cornelia J. Nez, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Kathleen Ortiz, Chimayo, New Mexico. Anna L. Spencer, Gallup, New Mexico. Gloria King, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Christine Julian, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Folks, this epidemic is not going to end anytime soon unless you get involved. We ask you to call and to write to your local, state, and federal representatives and demand that they put missing and murdered Indigenous women on their agendas. Start conversations in your own communities and circles of friends about missing and murdered Indigenous women, and seek out ways in which to help. The folks you see on stage today, we all have flyers and websites with more information. We beg of you, please get involved, because our lives depend on it. Thank you for listening. Yako ke amakana.
I'd like to invite Ashley Gallegos, our Nawa sister, to say a few words on behalf of our sisters and brothers and siblings on the other side of the border, the imposed border.
Hola, you guys are still with us, thank you. We got our hardcore, I was gonna swear, but I won't. We got our hardcore people here, that's great. My name is Ashley Elizabeth Gallegos. I am Nawa. It's a Central Mexican Indian tribe. My father crossed the border when he was 16. He was left by his mother, who had, she was a singer. She was a Mexican singer. She sang and toured with Pedro Infante and Angel Infante, my great uncle and my great abuelo, thank you. And she was able to get into the States that way. My dad did not have the same privilege at all. He was left in Mexico. She went on to the States, and he had to cross when he was 15 and 16 years old with a friend. His friend Beto, his family has some money. They got $3,000 USD together. It's a lot of money in Mexico. And to give it to the coyotes scared them with a fake immigration ICE like scare coming from the trucks. Everybody ran. Everybody ran into this deadly desert into the evening, not knowing if they would ever cross, ever breathe, ever drink water, have shelter, or have food. Excuse me. Oh shit, my paper's on fire. So my dad, through rivers of water. He had no food. He didn't know if he was gonna live or die. Him and his friend, they barely made it. They ran across the river to my Uncle Mike and my Uncle Jimmy in the States in El Paso. They were being chased by dogs, by ICE, by the immigration borders. Right behind them, they were running, and ahead of them was my Uncle Jimmy, my Uncle Mike in El Paso. And my family is from Chicago originally. So, you know, these borders are not real. They are made by white men that came here in the beginning. These borders are not real. They take our resources from the land. They take our fruit and our bananas and our grapes. Don't look at those fruits the same. People died over those. They bled over them. They were slaved over those things that we get to eat here like we're organic and happy and yay. So, what I want to finish saying is that in Arizona, there is a group in Tucson called No More Deaths, No Más Muertas. They are being trialed this last week for maybe serving 20 years for leaving food and water and maybe harboring some terrorists, that they might get 20 years. Priests and nuns throughout the past knew that this is inhumane, this is wrong, and they were always helping immigrants funneling in, and the border patrol would go to the churches and go to the priests and go to the nuns, and they would raid the church because of the humanitarian things they were doing. So if you want to know more things, look up No More Deaths. They have a website. They're all on trial this last 14th. It's not good, you guys. We need to help these people leaving water for other people that are just looking to not be criminals and just live in a peaceful place. So that is all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. And finally, we will be hearing from Carrie Wood. She's from the